We have gotten some of the greatest letters, and attorney Baker, Debbie Baker, and I have really have this great communications, and we're so lucky, we're so blessed to have her. And I hope she doesn't get a big head, but knowing Debbie, she won't. Let me introduce you to Debbie Baker of London Baker Law.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The cat's almost here. Okay, wait. Okay.
Yeah.
He ran. For those watching, we had an incident here at my house, and he got scared because there were people raising their voices, not at him, but anyway. How are you, Steve?
We're doing well. We just got notice on Friday from it's not Google, but it's like Google, saying that in Tampa we have a 91% I guess hearing and viewing percentage, which is amazing. And that makes Tampa one of our top markets of all of our cities. But Debbie, first of all, we got to introduce, we're getting new people every week. And there's a lot of new viewers and listeners who this is their first time hearing your show. We're talking estate planning. Tell people about your practice and yourself.
It's great because, I get to say something a little bit different each month. I've been thinking about that. Well, I had a career as an executive coach for over 30 years. And I thought about law school when I was a legitimate undergraduate at those ages. And it was just not the right time to go. I always had good excuses. First one being I didn't want to borrow the money, which in light of how much money I borrowed to go to law school in this century was silly. But in any event, I went to law school and I've always been driven to be of service. It's always been my motivating factor. I've never been motivated by the financial reward. It's always the psychic, I guess, or the visceral reward of knowing that I could be of service to somebody and they can walk away from something having a problem solved. And estate planning is very much about solving problems. It's about, and I like asking difficult questions, and I like having difficult conversations, and people will tell you I'm really good at difficult questions. It's having people look honestly at where they are and where they want to be, and how do they want their families taken care of after they're gone, and who do they want to have take care of them while they're still here, and maybe they are no longer have capacity, however you define that, legally or however. And it's really a joyous, it's a pretty joyous, it's not always fun, like not a lot of laughing all the time, but if I can't make it fun, I'm not going to do it. And I think I'm pretty funny, but the clients I work with, if we're not able to make not light of a situation, but not find something to smile at in a situation, then it's much too heavy a situation to move forward with. And I'm not the right match because I don't want to do that. Oh, I do estate planning and probate and trust, and I'm venturing into elder law, all with the idea of how do I bring a service as my gift from God to people who need it.
Well, I know you did a lot. You've done a lot of coaching in your time, and I can understand because when you're a coach, you have got to be able to communicate with people, and that seems like that's what you do best.
Yeah, God gave me a gift. I have amazing intuition. People have told me I'm physic, otherwise spelled psychic, and whatever. But and I do have a gift for compassion. So they're good gifts to have anywhere, but they're particularly helpful here. Yeah.
So what's so great about this show, Debbie, is sometimes you take for granted that people know all about estate planning. And you know from your practice, there is so much people do not know about estate planning. And that's why we do a show the way we do. We actually educate people here. It's not an info commercial. So some of the questions might seem pretty easy, but just remember, there's a lot of people out there that do not know. And my first question, and it's mainly because, and we've talked about this before, people like Larry King putting his will on a napkin, or Prince not even having a will. So we need to know how important a will is. So what's a last will and testament, and what are some of the things that should be remembered considering when you're doing a will?
Okay. Well, a last will and testament is the document that people create to indicate what they want to happen to their bounty. I think that's the legal term, their bounty, when they die. And it can be from who gets the house to who gets the vehicles, which can be listed in a will. It can be reference to who gets all my personal property. I have somebody right now who, when they were younger, collected, these are his words, bone china, silver, and sterling, I think he said. And he wants to be sure the people he wants to have get them. So a will is the place that you do that. The other thing, and I'm only licensed in Florida, but I would imagine in every state, there's a way to avoid probate, which is not something anybody wants to do. Well, if an estate is done correctly, however large or small, the will is then there for the unfortunate situation where something shows up after somebody passes that is a vehicle already established to collect assets. So right now, there are a lot of Camp Lejeune cases, and I don't have one, but some kind of, like environmental hazard, and people who served at Camp Lejeune are going to receive settlements, I think, eventually from the government or from the company. And the point is that the will would allow it to happen easily. There'd be somebody in place. It's a good catch-all if you have a malpractice lawsuit, if you have a personal injury lawsuit. So it's something that somebody should have, or after you die, so somebody is appointed. And recently, what I had a situation with somebody who does not have anything and wants their brother and their stepson to inherit 25% of his estate. I said, as long each, and then his daughter and son to each inherit 25%. Without the will, in this case, if he dies without the will, that brother and the stepson get nothing by law, because the only people who are eligible for inheritance by law are called lineal descendants. His brother is not a lineal descendant. He's the same generation. And the stepson has no blood relation whatsoever. And so only his son and daughter. So that's a situation where it will be really essential. Otherwise, those two important people to this person would get nothing. It's a place to start. But it all goes into effect after somebody dies.
It's funny. It's not funny. You're trying to keep people out of probate, and because probate can get really expensive.
Really expensive.
What's better when there's a minor child, a trust or a will?
There are minor children. I'm sure that not everybody agrees with me. My position is that if you have a minor child, you want to do a trust. Children cannot inherit money till they're 18 years old anyway. And I've said this before. Would you trust yourself with a lot of money when you're 18? I wouldn't have. But do you really want an 18-year-old to inherit whatever a lot means to you? And the other thing for the trust is, part of a trust is you get to a point who's going to manage that child's money and when they're going to get it. And then you also, as my planning, it's not part of the trust per se, but you really look at who do you want to have raise your children if you're not around to raise them. And I was telling somebody recently who's got young children, I said, if you don't do it for any other reason, you want to do it for this, here's your challenge. Something happens to you, the parents, because even if a couple's divorced, and mom's got custody of the children, the natural guardian of the children is the father, so they would go to the father. But if they died together or whatever, and you didn't appoint somebody, whoever looks better on paper gets to raise the kids. And whoever looks better on paper, because the judge doesn't have time to get to know you or whoever, whoever looks better on paper gets the kids. And that might be the person who would be the last person in the world you or the father or the mother of that child would have wanted to raise your children. So it's a very important conversation about who do you appoint. You want them to share your values. You want them to share whatever they are. You want to trust that they'll make the kind of parenting decisions that you would have made to the best of their ability. But regardless of that, minor children, I think, demand a trust.
What do you say to a family member who wants to contest a will?
Well, I say, well, I think I've said that I don't do them, but I would refer you to somebody. You want contest a will. Actually, somebody asked me last week if they could put in a will that if one of the beneficiaries contested the will, that they would lose their part of the inheritance. And I said, no, you can't. It's not legal in Florida. And they said, it's not. I said, no, it's not legal in Florida to do that. But I have a situation right now where the two children don't get along, and the one is convinced he'll do anything he needs to do to take the other, and he's convinced his sister would, the first opportunity she had to put his mother in a nursing home, she would do. And so we've going to do the estate in a way that neither one of them has a say at the end of how her assets are disposed of, for fear of the argument. For contesting a will, you better be certain, really certain, and have cash if you want to contest a will. If you think that your loved one was unduly influenced by somebody that they know, whether it's blood or not, and you're pretty sure you can substantiate that, then that might be worth contesting a will. And people find that with people who are older or have less mental capacity. Caregivers influence them. Children influence them. You and I are brother and sister, and I'm the one who sees mom every day, but you're the one she listens to, and you call and say, Deb hasn't been to see you in months. And if anybody went to the guest book, you would see I signed it at noon and I stayed until 2, but mom doesn't have capacity. So, but it's expensive. It's expensive, and it comes out of your part of the inheritance. It's not that if you contested our mother's will that I would wind up paying for that. You pay for it, and all of your fees, all of that gets deducted from your half of the inheritance. I don't suffer for that, except emotionally. So not only money, but you really want to figure out, do you want to pull the family completely apart by contesting a will? Do you really want to do that? And some people do. Some people do. Badly.
I got to tell you that the self-will companies, they're not going to like this at all. And I know people are trying to save money, but something that is as important as a will is that why would somebody want to do it themselves and not retain your services?
Well, here's the thing. People will say, my will is very simple. I haven't had that happen yet. Yeah. But they think it is. They think, well, I just divide everything up amongst my children. And then the conversation starts with, well, one of your children has an alcohol problem. Do you want them to inherit money? Oh, no. Or one of your children has credit problems, or do you want them to inherit money? Oh, no. So it's rarely straightforward. I can't say I haven't had any that's like just cut and dry. But even so, I've learned you don't do it online because you don't know that you can't guarantee it will be Florida compliant. And I learned
Right.
recently about reviewing documents that people do themselves is that the best practice is really that an attorney not even review those because they weren't done by an attorney. And, you know, so if you give me documents that you did online and I say they're fine, to turn out they're not, somebody can sue me, and yours weren't even written in the first place by an attorney. But people do them sometimes. They need something quick and dirty. I mean, they're going out of the country and they need something. They want something in place and they don't have time to call an attorney. I don't recommend it. I would rather somebody called one of the legal services that are staffed by attorneys and do it there very inexpensively than do it on the, and they are inexpensive and they're quality documents, than just download something from online and do it.
You know, Debbie, I hear all the time about a living will, and I don't think a lot of people know what a living will is. Can you tell us, like, what don't they know or understand about a living will?
Most people who call me and say, well, they say, I need a living will. And I said, okay, the living will is the document that you and Sophia probably have that, by the way, audience, I don't think she exists. She's just a figment of our imagination. But anyway, it's the document where you put down how you want your end of life handled. And people collapse that with a last will. They think it's the last will and testament, and it's not. So the living will is something that is useful for while you're living and you've reached a stage where a consulting physician and your physician determine there's no reasonable medical probability of recovery with an end-stage condition, which could be like kidney failure, or a terminal condition, which could be stage 4 cancer, or the persistent vegetative state, which is the dementia patient who just doesn't have any cognitive ability anymore. And that's where you say, keep me alive, don't keep me alive, keep me alive under these circumstances, don't keep me alive under those circumstances. But they're not the same, and for some reason, people have them as if they're the same. So the last will and testament is for after you pass, and the living will is while you're still here, at least breathing, and you have made decisions about how you want those last days to be. And it's a good document to have. You know, I've recommended this book before. I think our producer put it up last time about Medicine in the 11th Hour by Sarita Puri, about palliative care, and that is all end of life. And you want those things in place for your family. You want to have those decisions made so you don't have spouses and children or whatever yelling and fighting with each other about, this is what we're going to do. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book on death and dying, she talks in there about when somebody's dying, let them go. I mean, don't keep them around for you. Look at your motives. And certainly people will stay alive for seminal events. There's no doubt. They stay alive for weddings, and they stay alive for confirmations or bar mitzvahs. They stay alive for all sorts of things. But that's their will to live, not your unintentionally guilt tripping them into staying alive for you and suffering. I mean, I understand it. When my mother died, I begged her not to go, and she laughed at me. Did she laugh at me? I think she did. She said, Deb, I'm dying, something like that. Okay. It was her kind of humor. But people they'll hang around, and that's, you really have to look. And if you need somebody to have a piece of paper that says, no, we're not doing this, and I don't care what you say, and be willing to withstand the storm that comes from people you love and who love the person who's dying, who just don't want to see them go. I mean, most of us have probably had pets who died, and even, holy mackerel, a bird just flew into my window. Okay, hit the window. We have pets that we don't want to let go, and somebody has to step aside and say, they're suffering. they're not getting better.
Right.
Right? They're not getting better. So, but that living will is about you're still here and how do you want to go? And the last will and testament is about you're no longer here and how do you want things handled?
Well, Debbie, this show goes by so fast. We've got about a minute left. First of all, give everybody your phone number and your website.
Okay, so my website is londonbakerlaw.com. Don't forget the law. People forget it and then they go, I can't find you. London like the city, bakerlaw.com. The phone number is 813-586-1332, 813-586-1332. I mean, if you live out of Florida and you just want to talk to me and I can give you any kind of general information with the disclaimer, I don't know your state, but here are some questions to ask that you can learn about. Part of my gift, part of my command from the Lord is to be of service. So if I can be of service, then, I'm happy. My voicemail says I return all calls by the end of the next business day. And if I don't, you now have permission to call me the day after that and say, what happened? That's another conversation about etiquette. But like I said, I love to be of service. And one of these days, you need to keep watching because Steve's going to have people call in with questions. And I can't wait for that.
I promise we're going to do this on the next show.
That's what you
We got to get out of here. Attorney Debbie Baker, estate planning, last Monday of every month, right at 9:00. Debbie, thank you so much. God bless you. We'll see you again next month.
Have a great day. So long.